Yo, what's going on, guys? It's C Trades from C Investments. We're going to go down my weekly watch list and explain what I think could happen this week in the stock market. This is not at all financial advice. So with that being said, let's get straight to the video. So right off the bat, we're going to be looking at the S&P 500, right? And we're going to see something very interesting that caught my attention on the daily time frame. So if you zoom out, you can clearly see, we've been bullish pretty much all year long, right? But now we're starting to break some very prominent lows, right? Some very heavy levels. So where do I think the big retracement could go down to? And what would start to show us signs that, hey, we're most likely entering the scary word, right? Everyone's talking about this is the worst time in the market for the past couple of years. Like, we haven't seen levels like this since COVID. This has been the worst day, right? Friday. In my opinion, I don't think this is a big drop. I think there's going to be a big drop, but I don't think this is a big drop. I think we're going to maybe trade down a little more, and then Nvidia earnings are going to come out next week, and we're going to start pumping again. There's going to be better news. But what really did send out the market was the unemployment claims, right? When those came out a lot higher than expected, that got a little worrying, right? Why are so many people unemployed? I thought we were about to cut rates. I honestly think that the market's waiting for that bullish structure to say, hey, we're cutting rates, and then the market's going to boom, and it's going to absolutely fly, and I think it's going to send us to an overextended period, which is going to have a big drop. I think that's when the big drop's going to come, after rates get released. Until now, I think eventually buyers are going to come in. I don't really see the bear market yet. A break of this would be my big red flag. If we break those prominent lows, then I'd be like, okay, now the bear market's a possibility. And I do think that we're going to see a retest of it, but I do not think we're going to break it. I think we're going to retest about this right here. If we decide to go lower. If we don't decide to go lower, I don't think we're going to see the break of that, right? I think we're somehow going to retrace down here and then have a nice bullish push back up. I don't really see us knife dropping all the way down. We didn't close under these lows, right? Price seemed a little bullish. So now if you jump on an hourly time frame, you can kind of see that we were holding that, right? Like, we broke under that previous period of consolidation, but now we're holding over it. If we fall back down, I would be targeting these lows, right? But I honestly want to see a push up, because if we start trading down, I want to see that overall trend start to form. So it would be healthy for me if we're really going to enter a bear market. It would be this push up here, and then I'd start shorting right back down. But until that push doesn't happen, I'm not really, completely sold that the bear market is here. We're obviously in bearish trend, and we're obviously pushing lower, and I think we're going to push lower than 528, but I don't think it's to the extent that everyone's saying how this is the worst time, blah, blah, blah. There's a very famous investor that said, buy the fear and sell the hype, right? So in this case, I think a lot of investors are going to come and they're going to buy the fear, right? You're going to see buyers come in. Everything's at a crazy discount. I mean, me personally, I'm waiting for Nvidia to drop a bit more, and around here is going to be my buying point. I'm going to lock up heavy on shares. But right now we are looking bearish. So I am only thinking about bearish trend, right? So in this case, my game plan for this week on the S&P 500 would be to see a nice push, right? I would like to see these highs get swept, and then a break of structure once we go in here. Break a structure down, right? So push us down and retest these lows for a break of this. That's my plan on the S&P 500. I'm waiting to see that, right? I think price is going to push lower. I don't think we're going to get bulls coming in right off the bat, but I think that is what we're going to see. We're in clear bearish trend. If you saw the heat map, look at the way we closed off yesterday. Pretty sure everything was in the red. I think Apple was the only thing green. this lows. Come on, come on. Yeah, everything was absolutely right? You had a couple stocks, right, in the green. And I actually read an interesting article that a lot of these major caps, a lot of these big stocks are starting to die down because they're not seeing, an investment on return on AI yet. But these little stocks are, the tinier companies are starting to see, they invested a little less and started to advertise it more, started to sell it more. A lot of these big gaps, a lot of these big stocks went really heavy into it. I mean, you saw a huge gap on Amazon. Amazon was down 8%, Amazon doesn't move like that. Yet again, that was earnings, but because of that, it did catch my eye. I want to see an earnings fill back up. I think that there's going to be a possibility to grab that. I don't see Amazon going shorter, right? I don't see Amazon dropping down more. We did see that, we came down here and it looks like on our daily that we swept these highs. We filled in this gap. So there could be a possibly nice swing setup for the upside here. Would I go against this trend? Would I fight it? I would want to take the risk on this stock, right? Because the risk to reward is pretty big. I mean, there's clearly a sweep, right? Then you started to consolidate. So if we could see something like this, if we could see sellers try to sell down here and we sweep that and buyers start coming in and we break out of that, I'm going to be looking at entries to at least fill halfway of this gap because it's going to have to go higher before selling lower, right? And it's very important to understand a lot of these stocks that move billions and trillions, they need to trade down before they could have their big moves up, right? So this is perfectly healthy. I don't understand why social media and all these people are going crazy about like how that's it, it's the end. It's clearly not, The stock market isn't going to crash. We have elections in I think in like 2 months, right? We're approaching elections. So why in the world would our current president let the market crash? Even if, whatever your thoughts or opinions are on him, like it would make no sense for that move to happen. He would not let the Feds crash the market, right? So I don't think you're going to see that prior to elections. I think that there's a lot of questions in the sky. There's going to be there could be one president that's completely new and another one that's retouching the podium. So, it's interesting. It's interesting where we are. And we are seeing that a lot of these stocks are looking like they're wanting to sweep prominent lows, right? So here on an hourly, you clearly see that that's a prominent low. We just broke it. Are we going to push further down? And if we are, where could we go? So in this case, on Microsoft, I want to see this. There's a big fair value gap here, right? If we can fill in halfway, right? Start rejecting down, see a break of structure of these lows. I'm going to be looking to target these next prominent lows, right? That's going to be my next target. There is a lot of movement this week that I think is going to send us further down, but I think it's going to be this week that sends us further down, and then we start to see that rally come back. If we start to break some serious lows, then I'd be worried. I mean, a big one that kind of didn't necessarily get me by surprise, but was a bit shocking, was Tesla. I mean, Tesla had a big earnings gap that it could start to fill. And it tried, it rejected, tried again, and it rejected. Now we broke structure and we're falling down. So where could Tesla go? Is it going to retest these previous levels, where it's at right now? These previous prominent highs that it had trouble breaking out of before? Is this the FVJ that price wants to retrace to? A lot of questions. The market's not necessarily in a point where you're going to be like, yep, I'm 100% this is happening, and this is why it's happening. I mean, you got stocks like this that are showing bullish signs. I mean, that to me is looking bullish, right? Like Apple to me is not looking bearish at all yet. I mean, it obviously is looking bearish, but it's looking more bullish than bearish right now. I mean, you got a sweep, right? You got a sweep. You're seeing consolidation. Is this manipulation before continuation? It could be, right? You could see this right here be the fair value gap, price respects to push higher. Remember how much time it struggled to break out of this? Or was it, I think it was this, right? Yeah, to break out of the 200s, it had a lot a lot of hard time struggling. It would go months to retest, and we finally broke out. So I don't necessarily see that bigger push back on Apple. I think Apple's starting to slow down. I think you have stocks that if you're holding long term, Apollo's looking great. Apollo's looking great as well. We're holding big previous zones, big previous levels. I mean, at the 300s, if we start seeing buyers come back in, I'm going to want to grab that. You've got Meta showing interesting signs. We were talking about this on the Discord yesterday, that price never trades here. There's this big gap, but whenever it's in it likes to fill it. And in this case, it did the exact same thing. So where could we see price go now? Is it to the downside? It could be. SMCI is looking bearish. SMCI is one of those stocks that I'm mostly being bearish on. I think SMCI is going to retest 566. So this is a swing trade I'm actually looking at. I want to see some strong push down. But most of all, the only setup I see forming this week as of now is NVIDIA. NVIDIA is looking nice to have some nice shorts back down, target these prominent lows. It's been extremely volatile. I think it's going to be one of the most interesting stocks to short. I think Microsoft could show a potential setup if it breaks further down here. I think the S&P 500, a nice retracement back up here to see what's going to happen, is going to be interesting as well. I think AMD you shouldn't touch. AMD's near these like weird levels. I would not get at it at all. We saw consolidation, manipulation, and it led to a bit of continuation and then just a big drop. So the stock overall is bearish, showing a lot of weakness. So I'm not touching that. I'm not liking that. We're seeing Netflix is starting to have a big pullback. We saw the Qs more than anything are like really pulling back down right now. Right. You're seeing a lot of these big stocks. You're seeing Nike is pretty much holding that. At 73 is where I bought shares and we're above it, so thank God I'm green. But Nike's holding that. I don't think Nike's going to break under that. I'm waiting for a swing trade to fill this empty gap. Some politicians were buying in on Dell. So maybe there's something going on in Dell that I don't see as of now. Could it be a sweep of these? Are we getting ready to break back higher? Are we just filling in this gap before we push higher? I don't know. We saw a lot of buyers come in at the 100 level. That's a big psychological level. So are we going to hold over that? There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things going into this week. But most of all, it is clear the trend is bearish, right? So you're going to want to secure positions. You're going to want to understand if trend's looking bearish, I'm not going to want to be looking for longs. Right now we're looking for shorts. NVIDIA's looking like your best setup out of all the other ones. There isn't something standing out to me this week that's telling me, yep, that's going to be the big money move. The big money move, the only thing I see, like I'm saying, is NVIDIA. NVIDIA has this gap to fill from 101 down to 97. And this could be the retracement it needs for a further push down. You would stop a lot of short sellers the second these highs get broken. So there'd be a big liquidity pool here to push price further down. In this case, I would be where price liquidates. Reason being, it's an hourly FVJ. And if we see liquidation, you're going to see, if this is a liquidity pool of orders, you're going to see price spike up and reject quickly. So this is going to be one of those signals that, you're going to kind of want to be on your phone. You're going to want to be looking at this chart because one or two things can happen. We could take the imbalance and we can trade higher, or we can respect the imbalance, liquidate orders, push further down and break these lows down here. So my game plan for NVIDIA is pretty simple. It's nothing overcomplicated. I want to see this, right? But in order to see that, I want to see this get swept. So you're going to be like, Camilo, if you want to see it go higher, what do you mean get swept? Right? Well, in order for this to be a sweep, we're going to want to see a break of structure. So even if I see a break of structure that pushes price lower than this on a 1 minute time frame, I'll be excited. I'll be looking for an entry. And if the 1 minute time frame gets broken and we have a fair value gap in that at the retracement of that one, so somewhere down here would be my entry. And the wick highs would be my stop. And I'd be targeting lows of 104 all the way to lows of 101. And I do want to hold my position if we're getting ready for a big short all the way down to 97. 97.54 to be exact. that's the big trade that I'm looking at for this week. I'm not too focused on too much other stuff, but I do think Nvidia is going to have a nice movement. I think Microsoft could join that for shorts. I think all the other stocks are pretty much at some specific levels, some prominent lows that could tell us where we could go in the future. So I'm not necessarily too sold on those. I'm only liking Nvidia and Microsoft as of now. There are some lower cap stocks that are catching my eye, but nothing yet. I mean, Google is definitely catching my eye as well, right? I don't know what I have written here, but Google's definitely catching my eye as well. It's breaking structure, it's breaking down. So I'm gonna want to see what price does here. More than all though, remember this is what makes a bearish, some lower highs, right, and some lower lows. And at some point, you're gonna see a nice retracement in the market, right? So once we see our divergent, and you see a break of structure, if there's a nice FVJ right here, that's where I would short my market, right? And I don't want to see price push further down. That's my game plan for this week. I know this is looking a little sloppy, but my game plan is bearish. I think you should all be bearish. I don't think there's any reason to be bullish. Yeah, this week should be exciting. With that being said, C-Trades is out. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please leave a comment and a like. Peace.